Welcome to the session. Topic of this session is land use policy in India. You know, there are various programs were started for agriculture development in India, and land is one of the most important basic resources for the agricultural activities, for agriculture production, and there are various issues emerges over the period of time, particularly related to use of land. The quality of the land is decreasing over the period of time. We cannot increase the land availability for agriculture purpose. Of course, we can bring the unutilized land for agriculture use, or we can stop the diversion of land from agriculture to non-agriculture purpose. So there are various programs or policies have been implemented, and most of the policy basically there are lot of degradation or decline in the productivity of the soil or land over the period of time. So major focus of the land use policy is to improve the, or in order to stop the further decline in the productivity of the soil. And the another kind of the land use policy we have implemented is to provide the ownership of the land to the cultivators, to the tillers, because we have before independence we have different types of systems like Zamindari system, the Rohitwari system. So there were a lot of middlemen involved. In case of the use, the ownership was with someone, and the actual cultivators were different people. So there were intermediaries. So land reforms were brought in India, and to facilitate the tillers, to provide the ownership right to the tillers for using the land for the cultivation practices. So in this session basically we are going to discuss about the various problems related to land use, and also various policy actions undertaken to improve the land utilization in the country. So land policies are very important for the optimal utilization of the land, because once the soil is damaged or is lost by erosions or by misuse, it cannot be easily recovered or reclaimed. So if the soil is lost due to the erosions or misuse, there will be a decline in the production, and it will trigger a chain of reaction like the floods, drought, ecological imbalance, and actually the ultimate output of this all soil degradation or land degradation is the degradation of the quality of the life. So actually, we need to bring different programs for ameliorations of problematic soils, and all these programs should be drawn on assessment of inventories in terms of quantitative and qualitative dimensions of soil. So actually, when we talk about the land resources, there are, which is basically natural resources, and there are three major concerns: one, the quantity, quality, and ownership right. So we will discuss all three aspects of the land in this presentation. And when we talk about the quantity, we have the limited supply of the land. We have the total geographical area is 328.73 million hectares, and the area available for reporting is 305 million hectares, and net sown area in the country, that is 141.43 million hectares, and gross cropped area is 200.86 million hectares. The difference between net area sown and gross cropped area sown is the once we cultivate more than one crop on a same piece of land, then the gross cropped area increase. Suppose we have the 5 hectare of land, and we are cultivating 2 crops for 2 seasons, so it become 10 hectare of land, So that's 10 hectare of land is the gross cooperative area, and 5 hectare of land is the net sown area. And in the country we have the 68 million hectare net irrigated area and 95.77 million hectare as the gross irrigated area, and cropping intensity is 142%. So actually there is a lot of focus to increase the cropping intensity, to bringing the irrigation facilities and other facilities on the land, on the agricultural land, so that we can have more area under cultivation. And there are when we talk about the quality of the land, there are different problems in land use in India, and the most important problem of the land is the land degradation, and it is the overall decline in the overall quality of soil, water and vegetation conditions commonly caused by the human activities. And the another problem is the soil erosion, and soil erosion is basically it is displacement of soil, like soil, mud, rock and other particles, usually by agent of current such as the wind, water or ice by downward movement in response to gravity or by living organism. So soil erosion is the most important problem of the soil, and here the soil particles or soil or mud or rock, they displaced from their original place to different places through the water or wind or ice. And the soil erosion is an intrinsic natural process, but it is increased by the human land use practices. So there are lot of loss due to the soil erosion. The another problem of land use in India is the soil salinity, and basically soil contains the high level of salt, then we call it there is a problem of soil salinity. And there are two kinds of the soil salinity. One is the dry land salinity, another is the irrigated land salinity. And basically when there is an increase in the salt content in the soil, plants and soil organisms are killed and their productivity is severely affected. The another problem is the soil alkalinity due to the release of sodium carbonate through the withering of soil minerals, or due to the application of fertilizers and irrigation water that are high in the sodium bicarbonate, that lead to the problem of soil alkalinity. And the another problem is the water logging, and basically water logging is induced through the induced raising of the water table, and that lead to the increased flooding. So there are lot of area in India are affected with the problem of water logging. And we have started different land use policies for optimal utilization of the land, and they have some common objectives, and this the policies were designed based on the assessment of the quantity and quality of soils under different problem, and the programs for amelioration were prepared with the some of the common objectives. And the one of the common objectives here is to utilize the land according to its ability. So the cropping pattern should be like that. So it should be based on the ability or fertility level of the soil. And basically through the land use policy, we want to maintain and improve the soil fertility and productivity. And another objective of the land use policy is to reclaim degraded and denuded habitats, and we want to integrated land use planning on watershed basis. So actually when we talk about the land use planning, it should be on the approach of the watershed or watershed area, and there should be a complete monitoring and activities, or basically purpose to counter the adverse effect of exploitative developments, especially with respect to the pollution and ecological disturbance. And we have started different land use policies starting from the first 5-year plan, and we have prepared a list of the different activities or different land use policy actions undertaken under different 5 years plans. And the first 5-year plans, that is from 1951 to 56. The programs were started to give the right to the tenants for the cultivation of the land, and the programs were started for the abolition of the intermediaries like Jamindaris or Mahelwari or Rohitwari system. And actually the land reforms were brought in the fellow land, or need to bring this land under the cultivation and to increase the land use efficiency. In the second 5-year plans, we started first phase of the land reforms implementation, and there was various legislations were brought under the second 5-year plans to monitor the land use activities, and soil conservation programs were started in the second 5-year plan. Then there was a focus on the development of irrigations in the rainfed areas, and the focus was also there on the training and extension work for technology transfers through the community development program. In the third 5-year plans, actually we focus on the increasing the production of agricultural commodities, and we started the intensive area approach. So for that purpose, we have started intensive area development programs in the selected districts, and purpose was to immediately increase the production of agricultural commodities, particularly the food grain crops. And we actually follow an integrated land policies in the third 5-year plans, and we started actually to develop the integrated land policy. We started a soil survey in the third 5-year plans, and in the fourth 5-year plans, basically we started the implementation of the second phase of the land reforms. And basically, we have implemented the Land Selling Act, and we have started the consolidation of the holdings. So, and actually there are various institutional changes brought in the country, and there was emphasis on the irrigations and soil conservation in the dryland areas or in the dryland regions, and various technologies were introduced in the dryland areas. And the major concerns was there on the higher cropping intensity, so that we can increase the area under the crops. So by developing the different type of resources, and the objective was to increase the higher cropping intensity in the fourth 5-year plan. And in the fifth 5-year plans, actually we have started various programs on the drought prone area or on the desert areas, and actually we have started drought prone area development programs, and then we have started the desert area development program, and there was a focus on further strengthening these soil conservation programs which were started earlier, and there was a lot of impetus on the dryland farming in the fifth 5-year plan. And in the sixth 5-year plans, actually further importance was given on the land and water management through the different programs under the drought prone area programs in the selected areas. And in the seventh 5-year plan, the soil and water conservation and averting land degradation was the major focus, and basically specific attention was given on the degraded land, and the waste land development programs were started, and the long term view of land management was thought that time in the seventh 5-year plan. In the eighth 5-year plans, there was an emphasis on the watershed approach, and basically the soil conservation activity was merged with the watershed program, and agroclimatic regional planning approach were started, were incorporated in the development activities in the country. And in the ninth 5-year plans, there was a focus to bring the more land under the cultivation, and for that purpose, the village common property resources, their maintenance were given focus, and the decentralized land management systems were evolved, by involving peoples in the land management system, and basically the panchayat raj systems were given responsibility to manage the village lands, and there was a rethinking on the land registration in few states and to manage the land resources in the states. And in the 10th 5-year plans, actually again the focus was on the bringing uncultivated land under the cultivation on economic use, and basically there was a focus on increasing crop intensity. And then we have started integrated watershed development program. There was a focus on the forestry ownerships and institutional frameworks like e-governance. Also we have started for the land use in the 10th 5-year plan. And after the 11th 5-year plans, basically we have focused more on the watershed approach for the land utilization, and also we were focusing on the participatory approach for the resource management of the land or water. And we basically now will move to the the institutional reforms for land. So for that purpose we have started the land reforms in India, and the objective was to make more rational use of the scarce land resources, because actually the land was available with few people in the, and they were not cultivating the land. So actually we want to increase the rational use of the land resources. So actually, so through land reforms programs we want to improve the terms and conditions on which land is held for cultivation by actual tillers, and we want to end the exploitation of the tillers. And actually through the land reforms programs we wanted to redistribute the land in favor of the unprivileged classes of the people in the country. And various actions were started under the land reforms, like abolition of the intermediaries, because there was a zamindari system or rohitwari system. They were not cultivating, they were giving land to the other peoples for cultivation purpose. So here through the land reforms, the purpose was to remove these intermediaries. So the protection of the tenants' rights were started. So the actual tillers were given right to cultivate the land, and so that under the land reforms the selling of land holdings were started. The maximum limit of land holding size fixed, and the surplus land was distributed to the poor peoples or the peoples who are not having land but they are cultivating the land. And we have also started the experimentation with the cooperative farming, so group farming. And these land reforms, various legislations were brought, and they were aimed that the land to the tillers. So land should be of the tillers, the ownership of the land should be tillers, and the objective was to further lower the ceiling of land holding, to the maximum size of land holding were further reduced. And we have many times thoughts about the national land use policy, and there are certain principles behind the national land use policy. And it was there is a continuously increasing demand for the limited soil resources, due to various purposes. There is a continuously increasing demand, and once the soil is lost due to the erosions or misuse, it cannot be recovered or reclaimed easily. But it is realized that it is possible to reverse the process of degradation within given limits. To a certain limit we can reverse the process of degradation. We can further we can stop the further degradation process, and or at least we can reduce the rate of degradation on some kind of land. We can rot or we can reclaim. And so soil conservation is important to maintain and improve the production on a sustained basis. So it was realized, and various basic objectives were fixed in the land use policy, like the objective was to meet the consumption need of the population by increasing productivity of land. Then we want to further we want to further stop the deterioration of the land resources. We want to prevent deterioration of the land resources by appropriate preventing measures. Then we want to restore the productivity of the degraded land by an appropriate package of practices. So cultivation practices which stop the degradation of land, so that we can stop, we can actually restore the productivity, and to provide the necessary technology and extension support for obtaining the maximum production for the increased productivity. This was also another objective. So actually we want to provide the technological support to the farmers, we want to provide the extension support to the farmers. So whatever the technologies are available, it should be reached to the farmers so that they can increase their productivity. And land use should be based on the land capabilities and the land productivity, and the national production goals should keep it in mind while deciding about the decisions on the land use. Then the another objective of the national use policy is to install efficient and effective administrative structure for prescribing and regulating land use by all concerned. So we want to develop some administrative structures which are effective in taking the decisions, which are effective in regulating the land use by the different participants or different stakeholders. And actually this national land use policy, they promote the involvement of the community for adoption of appropriate land use for purpose is to increase the productivity for the consumption and the energy needs, and the provide the better quality of life to the people. And also we have the objective of the land use policy is to generate awareness about the advantage of the national land use policy. And also the importance was given on the restructuring of the livestock production program, basically to have economically productive stocks and to prevent degradation of grassland by promoting stall feeding of the livestock in the rural areas. And there was a focus on the optimum use of the land by promoting mixed farming systems that include the production and the tree crops. So there was an importance given that we should have the farming systems which involve different types of crops, and they should also have the fodder crops or tree crops so that the fodder can be given to the livestock, so that there is a less pressure on the forest. And the purpose was to motivate the farmers to cultivate the appropriate crops and fodder crops or trees by organizing input supplies and marketing support. And priority were also given on the completion of the land and soil surveys to complete the inventory of the land resources. Actually we should have clear pictures about the available resources. And also there was a need for the comprehensive legislation to provide some teeth to the machinery entrusted with implementation of the national land use policy. And the another objective of the land use policy was to coordinate the formulation and implementation of water resource management policies and the forest management policies and urban planning. And the focus was also on there to prepare a plan of action at all levels covering a time frame which are relevant to all the stated objectives, and continuously monitoring the action taken to achieve different objectives which we are discussing now. And there are different indicative action plans were prepared for the implementation of national land use policy, and these programs aims at basically the national and state level must be reviewed and the strengthens for implementation of the soil conservation measures and with greater vigor. So actually the focus was there to review the national and state level and programs on land use, so that we can further improve these programs and plan on land use. And actually there was a focus on the enforcement of this scientific irrigation. So actually, so that we can control the problem of the water logging, salinity and alkalinity, and to provide the consecutive use of surface waters and groundwater reserves, treating the water resource as a total system. And there was a focus, the implementation programs like the catchment area are to be treated to prevent the destruction of the hilly areas and to prevent the premature siltation and degradation of their environment and ecology. And special programs for conservation and afforestation in the desert area should be started for reclamation and rehabilitation in the ravine area to increase the availability of the productive land. And the programs should be there to provide vegetative cover to degraded forest land and others such wasteland. And district and block level land use should be there to provide land for different purposes, for example food, fiber and fodder, farm forestry, social forestry, livestock development, etc. So we should have a district level and block level land use plan. And we can sum up the session that we have the limited resources, and there is a continuous increasing demand for the land, and we have observed there is a degradation of the land resources and there is a decline in the productivity of the land over the period of time, and various measures, policy measures were started for judicious land use and for reclamation and restoration of the degraded land. And land reforms were asked to started to provide the ownership to the tiller on the land. And we also felt there is a need to have effective administrative systems, and community participation is also very much required for the optimal land utilization. And actually we need to develop the scientific cultivation practices and irrigation method to further stop the degradation in the land resources in terms of soil salinity, soil erosion, soil alkalinity, water logging problems. So we need to have the scientific cultivation and irrigation method. Thank you very much.